Welcome to another episode of the No Time to Be Offended podcast, hosted by Matt Christopher and Dan Adler. Settle in, listen, and learn what drives them to share their knowledge and experiences, with the hope it gets you thinking about a different perspective on life. Over to you, Matt and Dan.
Matt,
how are you, Dan?
It's the end of January. We got through it. 2025, February is upon us.
The end of January we got through?
Yeah, 31st of Jan. Wonderful. Here we are.
Excellent.
We've just finished 2 episodes and we've taken a bit of a stop and a stock check and learnt some things. We got feedback from people. We've played with technology. And we're going to start this next podcast episode 3, with a bit of a, check in to see what did we learn with this pilot of the first 2 episodes. And then we'll get into the topic of today, which is
loneliness
and solitude.
The epidemic of loneliness and its effect on our society. So, looking forward to getting stuck into that today.
Let's get stuck into it. Well, the things that we've learnt since the first 2 episodes were make it short and snappy. We've learnt that we can use tools like GarageBand to edit and take out the ums and the ahs and the big pregnant pauses to make it more concise and more enjoyable for people to listen to, which is important. And we've also spent some time to think about what does the future look like for other episodes with guest speakers and how we'll introduce them. And we've also set ourselves up now on Spotify, YouTube, and created all the social media channels. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. So people can find out more about who is Matt, who is Dan, the background story, the behind-the-scenes making of, and join us on this journey as we go about from being an absolute novice, never done this before, zero,
yes, absolutely,
green as, to seeing our improvements as we're going along. And that's all part of this, is come along the journey, come with us, and hopefully you'll enjoy seeing the improvements. For example, a second ago, you would have heard an intro, and at the end of this episode, you'll hear an outro, and that was just recently created. And I learnt how to, get a voiceover, record it, and then put some music. I chose music and get the volume to go up and then down, and all the things that professional people do is going, duh, but we're doing it ourselves. Absolutely. We're a 2-man team, and we've enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, absolutely. And listening back to yourself, and you think, oh boy, I've got such a long way to go. And I know that the time that's been spent, especially the time you've spent with the editing, and you just don't realise there's a voice. You hear yourself. There's no voice in your head, but you hear yourself. But the reality of that is very different, and that's a huge learning, number one. And the time that is involved for those of you out there who are thinking of doing a podcast, and you should. There's a lot of work involved. It's a lot of work, and for me, who is honestly, I'm a Luddite when it comes to technology. It's a huge learning curve, which I'm really grateful for, and to know that there's these gaps, and I want to fill those gaps. I'm enjoying it, finding out what I don't know, which is a hell of a lot when it comes to technology, but it's all part of the learning.
But primarily, the feedback that we've been getting from everyone is they're looking forward to the next episode.
They certainly are, yeah, they definitely. So really thank you very much to the people who have got back, and for you now that's listening, please get back to us. If there's something you want to hear more of, less of, a subject you want to tackle, please tell us. This is what it's about. We can't meet you in person necessarily, and I think, Dan, you said where it's been downloaded in over 5 countries?
6 countries.
6 countries, wonderful. Yeah. So that's incredible. It's unlikely that we're going to be able to get to all of those countries in person, but thank you for listening. But we want your feedback. So we're using this as the ultimate example of self-development. And I tell you what, there's no ego in this. As you said, Dan, we are we are not consummate professionals. We literally said, oh, let's do this podcast, went and bought the equipment, just bought it, off somebody, turned it on, off we did, and then, as you said, all the other things, GarageBand, the RSS. What else have I got? I've forgotten. There's
And
a lot.
the URLs, the domain
URL,
names.
absolutely. We've got all domain names. I've never known anything about all
No
that.
time to be offended. All the handles on social media, the .au, .com, .com.au, they've all been purchased, and we're even about to go and roll out some merchandise.
I want the merch.
We created a logo,
I like it. It's good. Yeah, I had a lot to do with that, so I'm pretty proud of
run
that.
some competitions, see if you want to win a T-shirt or a hoodie.
But I'll talk about the feedback.
Do that.
Thank you very much. And people are really enjoying the content. So we'll get onto the more heavy stuff a bit later on about the loneliness and that impact on our society. But thank you very much. So this is about tackling some heavy stuff, but doing it with a good sense of humour and honesty and integrity, and two friends just
Not
sitting
too
in the
heavy.
Not too heavy, just middleweight.
Well, if it's
that a
always
thing?
too heavy and too serious, I don't know.
Okay.
It becomes a bit boring.
Okay.
You've got to have some laughs. But back to your point, the feedback, I big shout out to Kath at the Village Retirement Group, who sent me an email and used emojis in her subject line. And the Command Apple spacebar tip that I put in one of the previous episodes, she listened to it and she used it. And she sent me an email with an emoji, 2 emojis in her subject line. She said, "Have you seen anything different about my email to you?" And I went, you listened to the episode. So not only are people enjoying it, but it's becoming functional. Not that she'll ever do emojis in a subject line ever again, because not everyone loves emojis. But anyway, great feedback. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you. We are learning. We are no longer at zero. We're somewhere towards progress.
Yeah.
And progress over perfection. I think that should be our strap line for the No Time to Be Offended podcast. It's us demonstrating that we're putting ourselves out there. A couple of old blokes sitting around going, well, let's have a go.
Middle-aged gentleman, thank you very much,
Middle-aged.
Mr.
Mature.
Mature.
Let's get on to the subject at large, loneliness, and I'd also like to throw in solitude, and we can talk about that. Obviously, you talk about it being a pandemic. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I was very interested. Basically, there was a survey that I saw, I think it was conducted by Johns Hopkins, put loneliness, and we'll sort of just define what loneliness is, as akin to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So the effects of smoking, which is heart disease, if you smoke 15 cigarettes a day, I think there's a 25 to 50% reduction or chance of reducing your life expectancy. And what Johns Hopkins was saying, that this situation of loneliness is part of a social condition in which it is affecting our mental well-being, anxiety, depression, social isolation, and it's not just for want of a better word, a negative emotion, it's a health epidemic. And we're seeing this all over. And I thought that's just staggering. And I know this is something you can speak to, is we're in a world where we're so hyper-connected. Okay, so we can talk to each other right across the world, whatever platform we're on, information overload. We know apparently what everybody's doing at every stage in their lives, keeping contact with family members right around the world and our neighbours, and yet people feel they are completely isolated. And it's not, I assume maybe it was people in later years maybe that didn't, maybe their families had moved away, or they lost a partner or something. Traditionally sort of think of no, it's from the young adults all the way through. Even highly skilled professional people are saying they feel loneliness on a daily basis, not just once every 6 months. It's a daily basis. So I think that's, to get that comparison to say the effects of this loneliness is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day, it's real.
Obvious to everyone with the pandemic, being locked in, being at home, not being able to get out of your home and see people, your friends, your family. And we had staff members that were employed yet they weren't able to cross the border from Sydney. We had a copywriter. We waited, I think it was almost 2 months to wait for the borders to come down for him to be able to travel and come and work with us. We were really consciously aware of his mental health being locked in and not being able to be part of our team.
Could you see, or was there any signs that he was starting to suffer a little bit? Or
Yeah, well, it was common for lots of people that were working from home or not being able to get out and have a routine, getting up, going to work and catching up with friends and all that stuff that made people think, geez, am I loved? Am I recognised? Am I acknowledged? Am I doing something significant? Am I being seen in the crowd as being someone that's doing something good, as opposed to just locked at home? You see your dog and you might see your neighbours. That's a really interesting thing that's come out of the pandemic, is from an employer's point of view,
right,
is being conscious of culture and the morale, and being able to see people and say, good job, I recognise what you did, it was significant, you had impact, well done. It's really important. It's part of humanity. We've obviously been raised as young kids, young children. You want your mum and dad's approval. And instead of just being chickens in an egg-laying, factory where you're just pumping out work, there's this balancing act between working from home and actually physically getting on a bus or a train or driving into a workplace and being connected to other human beings. I think off the back of our last episode, that's very, very important to people. No doubt.
Just asking you as a employer, there's a big push for culture. I'll say my terminology, healthy culture. And there's this push for the work-life balance. But I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think that the work from home model, does that also have drawbacks in terms of this subject of loneliness, do you think?
It was a surprise to us when we shifted from being everyone bums on seats 9 to 5, 5 days a week. As an employer of a creative agency, which is what I am, there was a shift towards people wanting work-life balance. It came not from me pushing it onto them. It was them saying to me, you know what, I'd love to work 4 days a week, not 5. I'm happy to go contract. In fact, I'd like to do 2 days a week here and 3 days at home, or whatever, vice versa. Pretty much all our team are now freelancers having work-life balance because they've got certain things they want to do in their life. I've had to adapt to whatever the group of people that we employ, what works for them. And the majority, they choose to have a 4-day-a-week work life. At the same time, the freedoms that they have to be able to work from home, or if they want to get together and meet at a pub or a cafe, work together with another team member, they can. They've got that freedom to do that. We have chosen to use the WeWork facilities, the WeWork offices. There's several offices in the CBD. There's also, as everyone knows, offices all around the world. We can go into Sydney, Melbourne. So next Thursday is a national creative agency in that we've got clients all around the world and here in different states in Australia, where we can be on a flight, Sydney 2 hours, and walk into a WeWork and my internet works. I've booked a room for the right size meeting. The printer still works. Everything works. I was hoping that the morale and the culture wasn't going to be too damaged by changing it from being 100% work in the office to work from home. But when you add up the cost savings of 150 grand a year, when you add up the rent and the cleaners and the internet and the toilet paper and then 3 different types of milk for coffees, the savings are hard to ignore. So we feel like we've got the best of both worlds.
Good.
But I must admit that the team morale and the team culture hasn't been damaged. And what's also really interesting is most of our clients, they're the ones that are working from home anyway.
Okay.
So it's a new normal. And I think employers are trying so hard, commercial spaces and commercial leases, they're trying to get people to come back and all be together. But for us at next Thursday, we're full flexibility, and so long as the work is done and the love is in the work and the clients are happy, we hit our deadlines, why stick to being chickens in a battery cage and being forced to do things the way it used to be? So off the back of the last episode talking about change, as an employer, I've had to go with the flow and change things up. But there are definitely times where I'm sitting here at home where I'm going, am I actually working today? It is a Friday. I feel like as though I'm being unproductive, but equally, like something I've said previously, back to that point of loneliness versus solitude. I want to talk about solitude.
Yeah, definitely.
I've had, at the peak of my career, working at Sapient Nitro with 10 plus big clients like Super Cheap Auto, BCF, Gold Coast Football Club, Queensland Government, and the list goes on. I had 4 teams that all had different briefs, multiple briefs, and it was just like the busiest period of my life. Working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night,
Right.
just getting home in time for dinner, see my sons and put them to bed. And then you multiply that 10x being an employer and all the stresses of running a business. There's times that I really need solitude. I actually crave white space. I crave nothing in my diary where I can do whatever I want to do, whether it's go and swim in a swimming pool and just stare at the black line, or walk the dog, or go for a ride on my bike. And parents, kids generally, having some time away from them, silence, just being in the car with nothing on in the car, just pure quiet. Some people might say, I need distraction, I need noise, I need to be able to... But you look at most people that are in the retail environment, in those shopping centres like Westfield shopping centres, they go home and they must cherish quiet. There's no noise. And they can just appreciate solitude.
I was thinking about you just reminded me there. So you as the head honcho at Next Thursday, you are responding to the needs of the workers. So it wasn't you that was saying, let's go, let's arrange things a certain way. They were informing you, which is great. But let's put it the other way. I know friends of mine that work for large legal firms or accountancy firms, and there seems to be a culture that unless you're willing to put in the hours, and I'm talking big hours, you're going to be overlooked for the promotion, or you're going to be seen as letting the team down.
That would be just different careers, different industries, different bosses, employers. For Next Thursday, we only employ senior people. By the way, most of our team members have worked together in different lives in different advertising agencies. So we've gone past that point of, is this person good at what they do? We've got each other's backs and we just get on with it. So we've got that perfect nirvana. That's right. My world. It's not everyone else's world. There's obviously big companies out there that people are coming in green and they've got to train them up and they want promotion and they want to be seen to be doing well. Well, everyone's different. But I think that what works for us is the money that we're saving on rent and overheads, the operational costs, we can reinvest that into social occasions, birthday parties, catch-ups, and making sure that the business is profitable fundamentally so that everything gets paid on time.
So you block out time for that social interaction for the team?
Any opportunity, whether it's Super Bowl's coming up on the 10th of February, and guess what? We're big on TV ads. Super Bowl is the biggest, best TV ads each year. It's our Christmas. So we're blocked out the whole day at 9:30 in the morning at the Osborne Hotel. If anyone wants to come and join us, we'll see you there. And
is that where the hot dog eating competition was?
The chicken wing eating. Okay. Simon Betteridge nailed it. So we'll be there with Simon this year. Each year we do it traditionally. Watch the Super Bowl TV ads. But that's the social occasion where we're going to take a day off, where we invite our team members to go there. And like I was saying in the last episode, carving out that white space in your diary, and all leadership coaches say, actually finding a space in your diary and block it out for yourself and do whatever it is that you need to do to get that mind, body, spirit, balance right. Family, community, contribution, growth, detox, whatever it is that you need to do, use that wisely. And for me, when I have a day that I don't have any client meetings, I am now looking at it going, how can I creatively use this time? Go and see my dad, give him a shave and a haircut. It could be journaling. I get a lot of buzz out of just writing, journaling and capturing where we're at and where we've come from and reading those again. Meditating, doing yoga and stretches, doing the base admin, life admin, all of a sudden you feel that sense of achievement. But when you do create that white space, quite often that's when the universe goes, right, here's the next big project, or here's a lightning bolt idea.
You need the space, don't you? If you're just compressed constantly with tasks, more tasks, you're at capacity. How are you going to be creative in that point? You're not. But going back to the Johns Hopkins, if loneliness and the effects upon the mind, the body, the spirit, to put it that way, is the same or similar effects to smoking. Well, talking about smoking, for instance, here in Australia, I mean, there's virtually nowhere you can smoke. It is public enemy number one. It's a taboo. The opinion of people, even people that smoke, is like you're a pariah. So I know it's not the same, but if the reason why we've rightfully attacked smoking is because of the cost to society, if loneliness and that the loss of connection has similar impacts, I'm just wondering, should there be government programs, should there be educational programs, I should say, that facilitate at least a conversation to say, we're living in these massive cities, people are so lonely, it's having this effect, and later if we don't address it, we're going to be paying through it through the health system. Do you think that we should be tackling it as if it was smoking from a, let's say, government perspective? What do you think?
There's so many things that are available for people to go out and participate in. There's museums, there's art galleries, there's, you look in what's on in Brisbane, there's theatre, there's performances, there's go and learn to paint, there's,
voluntary organisations.
There's men's walks, there's park runs, there's all sorts of things out there for people to go and participate in. So I don't think we need to create anymore.
Right.
I believe that people just need to get off their ass and go and get out of that front door. Like I was saying, I was in a bit of a funk a week ago, and I just had to start with having a shower and then doing my thing, and the next minute I'm on the Gold Coast giving my dad a haircut. If you're lonely, there's so many opportunities out there outside your front door, and it can be as simple as starting with, quite often I randomly mow the front lawn of my next door neighbour, just for a random generosity. It's a gift.
What if someone says, look, but I'm feeling so drained that I just don't have any motivation to go to the library or to the...
Like I said, that same funky thing. I couldn't get out of bed. It started with movement. Emotion follows motion. So shift your position. Get out of your bubble that you are in and go and do a simple thing as going for a walk around the block. You might actually have a light bulb moment. Go, actually, I could do that. It's self-inflicted loneliness. Absolutely. That's what the point I'm making is solitude is a choice. I choose to have that white space and quiet time because I need it to still my mind and balance my yin-yang, right? So if I'm sitting here going, oh, no one's come and seen me today. No one's rung me today. No one emails me. I've got no meetings in the diary. That's a victim situation where all of a sudden you're in this spiral where you're like, oh, I really have lost my way. I'm not as young and attractive and popular as I used to be.
But what happens if you have lost your way?
Go with it. Grow a beard. We agreed that we were going to keep this short and snappy this episode because that's been a bit of feedback that was too long. Long form it is, but there's a point where we can keep things to a point. I think we've covered off the loneliness versus solitude and the choice, and we hope that the outcome from listening to this podcast is that you have a different perspective on your day today that you're listening, what you're going to do tomorrow, what frame or lens that you're going to look at your priorities of life through, and also decide whether or not it's healthy or productive, if it's working for you, and make some choices that will work for you, because all we care about is making sure you get the most out of life.
Definitely.
And what works for you will be different from what works for me, and that's up to you to decide, but that's a choice that you have to make.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a lot of people out there who have made choices in their lives to change. I think both of us will talk in other podcasts about the changes that we made in our lives. I've got certainly a massive turnaround story, which Dan has been through that situation with me, and the outcomes have been fantastic. But difficult decisions need to be made. But we hope that this podcast is thought-provoking, and ultimately that it's positive and has a positive impact on your life.
Future episodes, we're going to have keynote speakers or speakers that come in and we interview them and hear their story. And you've got a few people that you've got on your wish list.
I do. Yeah, I do. Well, I wrote them down, but I don't know whether I'm going to get Oprah or Donald Trump on. What do you think?
Well, I think he's pretty busy at the moment.
Yeah, pretty busy.
Executive orders, building walls for Mexicans and
flying people out of the country.
It's entertaining. But anyway, that's another episode done.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
and we look forward to
guys.
dropping the next episode in a fortnight's time.
And look out for the merch.
Yeah.
Merchandise. I love merch.
But send your feedback,
Please
topics
do.
that you want us to talk about, things that you're interested in, things you'd like us to explore, and even people that you want us to interview. So if you're one of these people, reach out to us.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Speak to you soon. All
Thank
the best.
you. Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the No Time to Be Offended podcast. To follow us, like, and subscribe. And you'll find more content on all popular social media platforms. Search No Time to Be Offended. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, we hope you get the best out of your life.